Yo, what's up, guys? Tonight, I want to bring you a pretty short and simple Magic of Sorc build video for PvP. I want to go over the skills, the character sheet, the gear, and the champion points, and then call it good from there. I will say that one edge I feel there might be a lot of Mag Sorcs wearing this very same gear, but there's probably not many of them that have about 19,000 stamina with about 3,800 recovery fully buffed and still 42,000 magic on your front bar. So without further ado, let's get right into the gear real quick and then we'll go over the rest of the stuff. So back bar, running 5 pieces of Lich. That's what's giving us some crazy recovery, fully buffed. Lich gives you magic recovery, max magic, magic recovery, and then when you cast an ability while under 33% magic, your recovery is increased by 1,000 for 20 seconds. And that can occur once every minute. So the way I'm running that is 2 pieces of jewelry, a helmet, and a restro staff. And that's only on my back bar that's on. Now you can see the 2 pieces of jewelry have magic recovery enchants on them, and they're arcane. The only reason they're like that is because I bought them like that from the Golden the other day. Originally, I was running spell damage on them for a little bit, but this is definitely the better way to go, having 2 magic recovery and then a spell damage on this. And you see I'm running 3 pieces of willpower on my front bar. So when I'm on my back bar, I only have the necklace, but when I'm on my front bar, I have 3 pieces of willpower. So I got a Nirnhoned fire staff with a shock damage enchant on it. And the reason there's a shock damage enchant is for implosion, the passive that Sorcs have with shock damage and physical damage. And so yeah, when we're on this front bar with willpower, we've got between 42,000 and 43,000 magic with still solid recovery. We only got about 3 pieces of Lich on that front bar. And then you can see the helmet is right there. So I'm running 5 pieces of impenetrable, I'm running 5 pieces of light armor, and then a piece of heavy and a piece of medium. I just showed you the other 2 sets. The other set obviously is Shackle Breaker, gives you weapon, spell damage, stam, and magic recovery, and then about 2,000 max stam and max magic. I'm running 5 pieces of Inpen with 2 pieces of infused. So the infused pieces are Tri-Stat enchant. And then I'm running 1 Dami Haas. That's also in pen. So this is how we're pulling off crazy stamina. Not to mention the tri-stat food that we're running. So between Shackle Breaker, 5 Lich on the back bar, 1 Dami Haas, and 3 willpower on the back bar, we're able to pull off some pretty crazy stats like this. I'll show you with Lich and a potion fully buffed. And I'll let you see it without a potion and not buffed what it looks like. So fully buffed on the front bar, you're looking at 42.8k magic, 3,700 magic recovery, 2,600 spell damage without the weapon damage enchant proccing on the restro staff that I have. I'll show you that in a second too. Back bar, you're looking at about 3,900 magic recovery. You're down a little bit of magic to 41k almost. You're also down a little bit of spell damage. You have 2,000 crit resist at all times on both bars, which isn't bad at all. I understand as a sword they can't crit your shields, but it's definitely nice to have some impen for the moments your shields do drop. Now, without all that stuff procced and buffed, we're looking at an unbuffed 22 weapon, or spell damage, excuse me. 1687 mag recovery on the front bar, 1881 mag recovery on the back bar, and still 19,000 stamina on both bars. You'll have about 22,000 health in PvP, give or take. I'm running the Mage Mundustone for max magic, and then I have 32% spell crit on both bars. Now, as you can see, the enchant I was talking about is the increased weapon and spell damage by 348 for 5 seconds. This weapon is charged. It should ideally be infused, and if not, maybe defending. But I'll transmutate it as soon as I can and definitely make it infused. And then the enchant will be about 450. Feel free to as well. You could definitely switch from Tri-Stat Food to Witch Mothers, and then you'll have over 4k recovery at times, and still about 15,000 stamina, give or take. I just prefer the higher stam pool because I feel like my sustain is still fine, even without Lich procced. Having the 1800 recovery back here, almost 1900, I don't feel like I run out of magic too much on either bar. So do what you will with the food. I just like having the ability to break as many CCs and roll dodge whenever I need to. So yeah, what was I getting into? Yeah, spell damage. It'll easily go up to 3k with that enchant on the back bar. But if you'd like to, whether you're using Witch Mothers or whether you're still using Tri-Stat food, you can make one of these a spell damage. One of these two, I should say. So you could have 2 spell damage and a magic recovery. And that's how I was playing for a little bit. And I didn't notice too much of a sustain difference. But I definitely like how I have it set up right now. I have a good bit of recovery on both bars, with or without Lich. And solid damage still. You don't need too much spell damage to burst people as a mag sword, especially when your magic pool is so high. And I'll show you the moves we're using right now so you can see why they're bursted so quickly. First off, a lot of mag sword builds or range builds. Every single move I have on this front bar has a range of 28 meters, and that's increased in PvP to about 33 meters, depending on where you are or whatnot. So we're running Haunting Curse, the one that applies the second time. It pulls Nightblades out of stealth that second time and all that. It's a great move. I definitely vouch for Haunting Curse. I use this to start off most fights, and then the rest of them follow in. Feel free to stun your enemy with Rune Cage whenever you need to. You could go with Defensive Rune if you'd like over Rune Cage, but I prefer being able to choose when they're stunned. It can't be blocked, it can't be dodged, it can barely even be cloaked. So Rune Cage, super powerful. Every Sorc is running at this patch. And then there's Mage's Wrath. I had the one on for a little bit that was giving magic back, the other morph, but I definitely prefer this one that does AoE damage. So if you're noticing a little sustain issue, but you really shouldn't, you could go with the other morph as well. But this AoE one is definitely nice. And then I went with Force Pulse over Crushing Shock. I know Crushing Shock is nice. It has utility, and you can interrupt a lot of players using Snipe, Radiant, doing all that. But the extra damage from Force Pulse is nice. I'm sure Crushing Shock still hits really hard too, but you can go with either morph. And I just like Force Pulse because it hits unbelievably hard. I weave this in with light attacks all day. Ideally, I'm going to start off fighting an enemy with Haunting Curse. Get Mage's Wrath on him whenever I need, and then spam that with light attacks until you can proc a Crystal Frag. You don't want to hardcast your Crystal Frag ideally. I know I do it sometimes, and I'm in the wrong for that. I'm a pleb. But ideally, you want to cast any other magic ability, and then you'll have a 35% chance of causing your next Crystal Frag to be instant, deal more damage, and cost 50% less magic. So that's ideally the only time you want to use Crystal Frag. But mostly you want to spam Force Pulse and Mage's Wrath, and then stun enemies as you wish with Rune Cage. Your ultimates are pretty flexible on this bar. If you're running with a group, you could run Suppression Field. A lot of times when I run solo, I run Overload. You could also run the Deathstroke ultimate with your group, or solo even. And I like running the Deathstroke ultimate and then streaking through the enemies to stun them. That's really powerful. Backbar moves, like I said, Streak, Hardened Ward, Healing Ward, Power Surge, and Harness Magic. So you got your Light Armor Shield, your Sorc Shield, and your Restro Shield. Between just Hardened Ward and Harness Magic alone in PvP, you'll have about 18,000 damage shield between those two moves. So if you're in the heat of a battle, you want to use Healing Ward first, then Hardened Ward, and then Harness Magic. So then we got Power Surge too. That's just here for our major sorcery. You could replace it with Degeneration if you'd like to. I wouldn't go with Structured Entropy, I'd go with Degeneration for the heals on your light attacks. You're going to light attack a lot with this build, whether you're on your Restro Staff or your Destro Staff. So feel free to use either Power Surge or Degeneration if you'd like. If you're using Spell Power Pots, and you have your Alchemy leveled up like I don't, and you have points into medicinal use, you could easily get rid of one of those two moves, I suppose. And you could put something there like Dark Conversion, Daedric Minefield, or Boundless Storm. Like a flex spot, I guess you'd say. Same with Streak, but I like the bar, how I have it set up. These are definitely the moves I would use. So, Power Surge lasts for 33 seconds. You're going to pop that, and then go into battle, and you'll have Major Sorcery for the next 30 plus seconds, so it's ridiculous. You got your shields, you got your stun, Streak. Streak also can activate Implosion. We're in Storm Calling, so let's go look at Implosion. This is why I have the shock damage enchant on the Fire Staff. It's for this passive right here. This crazy shock damage. We're looking at a lot of these tooltips on my Resto Staff bar. The tooltips are a little higher on the front bar. And then the frag tooltip and everything would go up if you were to hit your Resto Staff light attacks. And if this were to be an instant frag, it'd be crazy too. It'd be like almost 18k, give or take. So, yeah. Went over the character sheet, the gear. Like I said, we got 5 Lich, 5 Shackle Breaker. The Lich is interchangeable with Amber Plasm if you'd like, but I think Lich is easier to get. You get it out of Crypt of Hearts. And then Shackle Breaker's crafted. You could replace the Shackle with Necro if you really wanted, but I'd stick with Shackle. The only way you'd have the Necro proc is if you were to run like 2 Shadowrend or 2 Ancient Guardian or Pet. You don't really want to run a Pet though. But to run 2 Shadowrend or 2 Ancient Guardian, you would just get rid of willpower at that point. You'd do 3 Lich. And then obviously you could run 2 pieces of whatever right there. And then at that point you could either run like a Master Staff or whatever on your front bar. Or Maelstrom Staff, I don't know. But this is how I prefer to have it set up. The Shackle Breaker, the Lich, the Domihos, it works really well. And the willpower on the front bar. You got solid magic on both bars, over 40k on both bars. Let me show you this overload bar real quick. On my overload bar I have even more max magic. We're sitting at about 44.7k. That's because we have kind of use overload as like a utility bar. I put bound armor back here, dark conversion, boundless storm. You can put your mines back here. You gotta have a shield back here. And then I also put negate on my overload bar. And the way I get out of overload is by pressing wall of fire on my L1. Just as long as you have like an AoE there, it'll get you out of your overload bar. But you could also run Dawnbreaker if you need to, Soul Assault, Meteor. As you can see, my Soul Magic and my Mage's Guild are not as leveled as they should be. But both of those ultimates work really well, as does Dawnbreaker and every other ultimate we went over so far. Obviously you could be a High Elf, Breton, Dark Elf. Any magic class works. I'm sure Argonian probably works, but I think the other 3 are a little bit better, for at least the mag sork. I think we went over each move. Force Pulse over Crushing Shock. You could go with Crushing Shock if you'd really like to, but I just prefer Force Pulse this patch. Same with this, you could take either more if you'd like. All of these 3 you could take either more if you like. I would stick with Haunting Curse though, and I would stick with Crystal Frag though over the other 2 morphs. And honestly, if you're not noticing a sustain issue and say you're running maybe Witch Mothers or something, you could easily ditch Harness Magic for Dampen Magic, and between Dampen Magic and Hardened Ward, you would have 20,000 plus damage shield in PvP, so that alone would be crazy too. Just something to think about. Your ultimate on your back bar is going to be your Restore ulti. You could take either morph of the Restore ulti you'd like too, but I go with the one that gives Major Protection and Major Force. The Major Protection is really nice. Reducing your damage taken by 30% is huge. And the Major Force is decent too, but I'm more worried about that Major Protection. So yeah, front bar ulti, pretty interchangeable, there's a lot of choices. Back bar ulti, I would most likely keep that Restore ulti, the Panacea morph. Passives, you're going to want all your Stork passives. There's actually a few you could get away with since you're not using pets. Like the first one, you don't have to have them in rebate or whatever. And same with this one, honestly, you don't need health or stam recovery. You could get away with being a vampire on this build, putting like mist form on your overload bar. I'm not a vampire, but I'm sure you'd have a little more magic recovery too, so it wouldn't be too bad. You take all your sword passives, like I said, Destro passives, Restro passives, light armor passives. We are in 1 heavy and 1 medium with 5 light, so the first 3 of heavy is not bad. And then fighters go passives and mages go passives. Undaunted, I need to level it up just a little bit more, and I'll have even more max magic, which will be really nice. I'll have more max stamina too. I think I'll have to get on that tonight, honestly, because that's huge. All these numbers will go up. Your magic recovery, I showed you, it was like 3,900 fully buffed on your restro bar with tri-stat food, and about 3,600 give or take on your destro bar. Your spell damage and your recovery will go up with continuous attack. Increase your weapon and spell damage by 10%, and magic and stam recovery by 20% for 10 minutes after you capture something in PvP. So just take that into effect. Like I said, all your moves on your front bar have a range of 28 meters. When you're near a keep in PvP, it'll go up to 33 meters. So every front bar move you have will be 33 meters in PvP. And then you generate ulti, so you just want your assault and support passives. You don't need the first one, but yeah, that should be it for the skills, the gear, the character sheet. Let's go over the champion points real quick and then we'll call it good. So champion points, start with the red tree. I got 61 into Ironclad to negate the direct damage attack, stuff like in-cap and stuff. As you saw, we had 2k crit resist at all times on both bars. We got 29 points into resistant. Over here, 27 hardy and elemental defender, 19 thick skinned, and the big chunk of our points. Ooh, I forgot about the light armor focus. We got 6 points in the light armor focus. Honestly, you could probably take that out and put it between hardy and elemental defender, maybe even thick skinned, or the crit resist one. But we got 81 points in the bastion. That's the main focus here. We're upping our damage shields by about 24%. As long as you get them above 24, or not 24, excuse me. As long as you get Bastion above 20%, you'll be good. So that's what you want to aim for, having 70 plus points, give or take, into Bastion. Over here in the green tree, we have 61 points in the Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. We have 3 points in Sprinter, 17 points in Siphoner, 75 points in Arcanist for magic recovery, 28 points into Tenacity. If you're noticing a sustain issue, whether you're using Tri-Stat food or Witch Mothers, which you really shouldn't, you could take these 20 points out and move them over into Tenacity and just heavy attack a little bit more with your Restro Staff. I rarely ever have to heavy attack with my Restro Staff as it is, but when I do, it returns solid magic, so yeah, it might be worth having those 20 points into Tenacity if you're noticing a sustain issue. Or you could throw them into something like Tumbling too. I think I don't know if it'd be worth putting much more points into Tumbling. 66 points is a good amount. You have plenty of reduction of roll cost. Like I said, 19,000 stamina is a good amount. You can break any CC, roll dodge as much as need be, and then streak away if you're trying to get out of a fight or something. Just shield up. You don't even need to get out of the fight per se. You could just stand in it with your shields. So there's your green tree, your red tree, blue tree real quick. 51 points in Elfborn for your crit heals and crit damage. You saw we don't have too high of crit. We have about 32% on both bars, but it's there, it's solid. 50 points Elemental Expert for Flame, Frost, Shock, and Magic damage. 28 points Spell Erosion. We have solid Spell Pen. Sorry, we're not trying to do that. 18 points Staff Expert. Majority of our points are in Master at Arms. Every attack on that front bar was a direct damage attack. We got 23% right there, and then we got 31 points into Shattering Blow, so we can burst other shield stackers down as well. Nothing over here. Thaumaturge would be the only one you could put him in for, maybe like the Haunting Curse, but I don't think it's worth it. So yeah, champion points. I'll let you look at the character sheet one more time on the front bar, unbuffed. 42.8k magic, 1700 recovery almost. I'll shut up and let you guys just look for a second. Back bar, unbuffed. Remember to put all your points into magic. You don't need any points into stamina, you still have crazy stamina. If I didn't mention already, we're running the Mage Mundus stone. Feel free to switch to Witch Mothers if you'd like, but this is how you're going to get 19,000 stamina as a tri-stat food. And then I'll show you guys one last time what it looks like fully buffed up. It's the front bar. And back bar. And it definitely works wonders. Solid for duels, solid for Battlegrounds, and solid for open world PvP with champion points. So take it as you will. I hope this was helpful. Holler at me if you guys need anything, and good luck.